The first thing you need to know is that love does not ask for permission. It barges in, often at the worst possible time, sometimes wearing the face of the very person you swore you would never fall for. And if anyone had told me I would fall for Ethan Hayes, my fiercest rival at work, the man whose name I cursed under my breath every other day, I would have laughed until I cried. But here's the cruel joke. I didn't just fall. I crashed. Hard. It started in New York City, where skyscrapers never sleep and the corporate battlefield chews people up for breakfast. I worked at Bexley & Company, a marketing giant where survival meant clawing your way to the top, smiling while sharpening knives behind your back. Ethan was the golden boy, the man with the flawless pitch, the unshakable confidence, the one everyone wanted on their team except me. Because for some reason, we were always pitted against each other. Every project, every client, every damn presentation felt like a duel. And I hated how good he was. Hated how he made it look effortless. Hated how, despite everything, my chest tightened whenever he walked into a room. The irony? I had no idea he was the one keeping me afloat when the waters got rough. I remember one night vividly. It was past midnight and I was still in the office, the last one there, or so I thought. My PowerPoint had crashed for the second time, and I was one coffee away from a breakdown. Then I heard footsteps. Ethan, standing there in his immaculate suit like he had just walked off a magazine cover, holding a file I'd lost earlier that week. "You left this on the copier," he said casually, setting it on my desk. His eyes lingered on me for just a second too long, like he could see through my exhaustion, straight into the chaos I was barely holding together. I muttered a thank you, refusing to meet his eyes. Because when I did, I felt something I wasn't ready to admit. Weeks passed, and the rivalry continued. We threw cutting remarks at each other during meetings, fought for clients like our lives depended on it, and yet, little things kept slipping through the cracks. My report was mysteriously corrected before the VP saw it. A client who almost pulled out of a deal was convinced to stay by Ethan. Someone had made sure my mistakes never reached the higher-ups, and all the arrows pointed back to him. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was undeniable. The turning point came during a major pitch, the kind that decided careers. I was supposed to lead, but the morning of, my laptop was stolen from my car. Every file, every slide, gone. I was seconds from losing everything I'd worked for. Then Ethan stepped in, with my slides, updated, perfected, better than I'd ever left them. When I asked him why, he only shrugged. "Because I couldn't let you fail." Those words shouldn't have meant as much as they did. But they cracked something open inside me. The rivalry, the tension, the late nights staring at him across the office seat all made sense now. He wasn't my enemy. He was my shield. Still, old habits die hard. My walls were built high, and Ethan had to climb every one of them. One rainy night, after another brutal day, we ended up leaving the office at the same time. The city was drenched, streets gleaming with reflections of neon lights. We shared an umbrella awkwardly at first, shoulders brushing, breaths mixing in the cool air. He made some sarcastic remark about my stubbornness, and I snapped back, but the laughter that followed was real, not forced. For once, we weren't rivals. We were just two men, caught between rain and silence, realizing the distance between us was thinner than we thought. And then his hand brushed mine, just lightly, enough to make my heart stop. "You ever wonder," he said softly, eyes locked on mine, "if we've been fighting because we're too afraid to admit what we really feel?" I wanted to deny it, to laugh, to push him away like I always did. But under that umbrella, with rain pouring around us, the truth hung heavy in the air. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. My silence was enough. That night, I went home soaked, restless, replaying every second of it in my head. I hated that he had gotten under my skin. I hated that part of me didn't want to push him away anymore. And I hated most of all that maybe, just maybe, I didn't hate him at all. What came next was a slow unraveling. Meetings turned into subtle smiles. Rivalry turned into banter. Accidental touches lingered longer than they should. And every time I tried to pull back, Ethan closed the gap. But the truth is, When you've spent so long convincing yourself someone is your enemy, admitting you've fallen for them feels like betrayal. Betrayal of pride, of logic, of the very walls you've built to survive. And yet, I couldn't stop falling. The unraveling didn't come in a single dramatic moment, it came in fragments. A brush of his hand against mine when he handed me a file. The way he lingered in the break room just a little too long when I was there. The way his gaze softened every time he thought I wasn't looking. But love doesn't grow without resistance. And I resisted. One Friday night, the tension broke. We had just lost a client, one I had poured my soul into, and I was furious. I blamed him because blaming Ethan was easier than admitting I had failed. I threw accusations, sharp and reckless, each one slicing deeper than I intended. You just can't stand to see me succeed. I spat, my voice shaking more than I wanted. His face hardened, but his eyes betrayed him. They glistened with something raw. You think that's what this is? He asked quietly. You think I've been spending months covering your mistakes, saving your projects, fighting behind the scenes because I can't stand you? The room fell silent. My chest tightened. Words stuck in my throat. You don't get it, do you? He whispered, stepping closer. I've been protecting you because He stopped himself, jaw clenched. Forget it. But I didn't forget. Those words haunted me, echoing in every corner of my mind. The following week, rumors spread Ethan had been offered a transfer to the Los Angeles branch. Promotion, a golden ticket. Everyone congratulated him. I said nothing. My throat burned with words I couldn't speak. Because if he left, what would I be without him? The night before his supposed departure, I found myself standing outside his apartment. The city buzzed below, but all I heard was the pounding of my heart. My hands trembled as I knocked. He opened the door, surprised. His tie was loosened, his hair a little messy, like he had given up on pretending tonight. What are you doing here? He asked, voice tired. I had to know, I blurted out. Why me? Why protect me when you had every reason to destroy me? For a moment, silence stretched between us. Then he laughed bitterly, shaking his head. Because I fell for you, damn it, he said, the words spilling out like a confession he'd carried too long. And it's been tearing me apart. Time stopped, my chest tightened, and before I could think, I closed the distance. My lips met his in a kiss that was messy, desperate, and long overdue. The world didn't explode. The city didn't collapse. But something inside me shifted, irreversibly. When we pulled back, breathless, his forehead rested against mine. You drive me insane, I whispered. And you, he said with a half smile, are worth every second of it. We spent that night not as rivals, not as colleagues, but as two men who had finally surrendered. We talked until dawn, about fears, dreams, the weight of always hiding, about the loneliness of playing roles that never fit. And when sunlight spilled across his living room, it felt like the beginning of something we had both been too afraid to name. But life is never that simple. At work, things grew complicated. Whispers spread. People noticed the shift in our dynamic, the way our rivalry had turned into something softer, more dangerous. I caught suspicious glances, heard the muttered gossip. In a company that thrived on competition, vulnerability was a weakness. And we had just given them ammunition. One afternoon, I was called into the VP's office. They accused me of favoritism, suggested Ethan had been feeding me advantages. I denied it, but the seed of doubt was planted. That night, I broke down. This is going to destroy us, I told him, voice cracking. But Ethan only took my hand, steady and sure. Then let it destroy us. I'd rather lose this job than lose you. I wanted to argue, but his conviction silenced me. For the first time in years, I realized that maybe winning wasn't everything. Maybe love was the only victory that mattered. And then something unexpected happened. The big client, our toughest yet, asked for a joint pitch. They wanted both of us together. The irony was cruel, but it also felt like fate's way of giving us one last test. We worked side by side for weeks. Nights bled into mornings. But instead of rivalry, there was harmony. Where I faltered, he picked up. Where he stumbled, I steadied him. For the first time, we weren't fighting against each other, we were fighting for something greater. The day of the pitch, I saw him standing on stage beside me, confident but calm. And when I spoke, his eyes never left mine. It wasn't just a business presentation, it was a declaration. To them, we sold a campaign. To each other, we promised a future. When the client signed, the office erupted in cheers. But all I saw was him, smiling like I was the only person in the room. Later, on the rooftop, with the city stretched beneath us, I finally said the words I had been too afraid to admit. I love you. He froze, then grinned like a man who had waited his whole life to hear it. Took you long enough. He pulled me in, and the kiss was softer this time, not desperate, not reckless. Just right. The rivalry that once defined us had burned away, leaving something stronger in its place. Not enemies, not rivals, not even just lovers, but partners in every sense of the word. And maybe that's what love really is. Not the absence of conflict, but the choice to fight side by side, even when the world feels stacked against you. So here's the truth I never thought I'd say. Ethan Hayes wasn't my rival. He was my home. And in the city that never sleeps, under neon lights and endless skies, I finally found peace in him. In us, in the story we almost lost but chose to fight for. Because in the end, love doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for the right time. It simply arrives, uninvited, undeniable. And when it's real, you don't run. You stay, you fight, you love, and you never look back. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.